Hello and welcome to the Give My Head podcast. This is episode 10. Can you believe we got 10? We got 10 episodes.
A decade.
Myself, my good colleague,
Damon Quinn.
Normally there are three of us, as you know. Michael McDowell is still in Turkey. We understand that they have run out of white paint to do his teeth. He will come back, apparently. He will come back, won't he?
Yeah. He did. He said he would come back. So
he's in Istanbul at the minute, but he will be back. But we don't really need him, to be honest with you. He's holding us back.
Well, he's on a career break. Let's say that.
Before we start, can I say thank you once again to our wonderful sponsors, Drip Cafe on the Ormer Road, for the superb coffee that they provide us. Drip on the Ormer Road, ladies and gentlemen, a fabulous place. The coffee is superb. They do brunch. They do something called Hong Kong toast. French toast, Hong Kong French toast. Have you ever heard of that, Pamela?
No.
French toast stuffed with peanut butter.
I like the sound of that.
Well, if you go to Drip, which I'm sure you will, on the Ormer Road, and you say, "Give my head peace," they will give you 20% off your food.
Wowzer.
The wowzer is exactly right. So thank you very much to Drip. Your coffee is absolutely superb as well. Thank you very much.
I didn't get one.
You didn't. You didn't get a cup. Why do we'll have to get Drip mugs from now on.
May I thank 1L Studios at number 10. That's where I was getting confused. For their beautiful cup of tea.
You're very welcome. Yes, you can tell, ladies and gentlemen, our special guest today. We are absolutely delighted to the national treasure that is Pamela Ballantine. Welcome, Pamela. Pamela, thank you very much for joining us on this podcast.
Well, can I say it's a very auspicious occasion to be here on your double figures?
Yes, thank you very much. Yeah, we can't believe we made it so far.
I'm truly delighted.
Opening question.
Oh, Lord.
Why are you not on a sofa?
Well, because we're in such a tiny little studio. The studio's about this size. And we don't have sofas.
Every time I see you, you're on a sofa.
I know, exactly.
No, the sofa's gone.
Exactly. Well, we don't have a sofa in the studio anymore. No, because we have to. That studio's used for everything, so they have to move things in and out. And God love them, they couldn't lift a sofa. You need a chair with wheels. But no, I love being on the sofas. I am having a ball down in the Moy, and there are only two places in Northern Ireland with a "the" in front. Right. Can you name them?
The Moy and there is...
The Ardoyne.
Correct.
The Ardoyne?
The Ardoyne. It's known as the
Ardoyne.
The Moy and the Ardoyne.
The Bone.
Or the Moyne.
No, hang on.
Mix the two of them together.
There's the Bone, which is near the Ardoyne. So anyway, well done.
But can I just the Bone?
The Bone. You never heard of the Bone?
Never been to the Bone.
The Bone is round the corner from the Ardoyne.
Is it indeed?
Top of the Old Park Road. Yeah.
Okay. Top of the rack.
Top of the rack. Yeah. You see. So UTV, you and I do a lot of gigs together.
We do. We go back a long way.
I love doing gigs with you because you know when you're in safe hands with Pam, you're a national treasure, Pam.
Well, I likewise like doing gigs with you because we sort of have worked on the principle that we're not going to hurt each other. And so
exactly.
Let's keep it that way.
Exactly. Yes. So we sort of know that Pammy's going to be good fodder for whatever will be thrown at her.
Yes.
So and I like that sort of because
yes.
I'd much rather people were talking about me.
I think I have insulted you once or twice. I
think more than once or twice.
Described you as the pensioners' version of Christine Lampard.
Yes, I'm taking that.
Is that you're happy with that?
Yep,
you're
100%.
Happy with that?
Yes, absolutely.
Where are you going with this?
No.
Sorry, do you want to leave the room and just leave the two of us?
Well, Pamela, you're a safe pair of hands, and kind of everybody likes you and all of that. You're kind of genuinely kind of one of those people that, because this whole podcast is about culture and comedy and kind of in a vague sort of sense. But you are kind of like a mini national treasure.
Well, it's really weird because in my head, I'm a qualified private secretary, PA,
right.
and I'm sort of still that sort of person. I was told very early on in my days in downtown, there are no stars in Northern Ireland. There are stars who come from Northern Ireland.
Right.
And just, always sort of there's always going to be somebody who will remind you of what leg you put into your knickers first and that sort of thing. So your feet are kept very firmly on the ground.
Most of the time when you look up, there are no stars.
Exactly, so true. Today. But you've got me on a day off.
Right.
But I have put the slap on just for you.
Oh, just for us. You knew there were cameras, right? Okay.
Yeah, but I wasn't even too sure, but I thought, let's just be on the safe side. But
what did I say when you walked in the door?
You said I looked fabulous, thank you. I don't know if you used fabulous, but I've put it up to that.
I said you looked great.
You did. Thank you so much, Steve. I appreciate it. Thank you.
So you started in downtown, that was early 80s, 81, the downtown?
Thank you for that. They started in 76, and I started in 78.
Oh. Right.
Yeah. It was
Okay.
just before my 20th birthday.
Right. Don't give people your age away, Pammy.
No, well, listen, although, wasn't it, I think it was Oscar Wilde said, never trust a woman who tells you her age because she will tell you anything.
Oscar Wilde, who famously lied about his age in the court case, the libel case. The
Yes.
first Edward Carson, the first question to Oscar Wilde was, what age are you? And he lied about his age.
But like Frank Mitchell, who lies about his surname as well.
Is that... So you're 60 something?
I'm older than you,
You're
and we
older
know
than me.
that.
You started in downtown.
Older than you.
You
Yep.
started in 1978.
Yep.
Oh, we remember those days. I'm afraid we're all turned 60 this year. You know, and you don't look. It would have helped there, Pam, but you
I
didn't.
do,
You
I
didn't,
remember- I
you didn't
remember-
jump in there. Maybe you were just thinking of me. You didn't want to say that.
I was just sort of gearing up for the complete what?
No, I totally remember the start of Downtown. I remember the start of Downtown Radio like it was yesterday. Like, you know what a bloody awful day it is.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Hey!
Yay.
No, actually, it's iconic, isn't it?
It is, absolutely. And Downtown, when it came on air, it was the first commercial radio station, I think, in Northern Ireland. It was, it was BBC Radio Ulster, and that was the only local output up until
Yeah.
then. So it was iconic. And then it was run by it was run professionally, but they let these lunatics on air
Yeah.
who had no idea.
It was the first time that you got characters on.
Yeah.
Our characters
Yeah.
were on because the BBC in those days was all very, this is the news from Radio Ulster, and it was always very formal and kind of,
Absolutely, because I did have a very brief sojourn in the BBC
Yeah.
where I had to go to Michael Bagley for to be taught how to talk Prager.
Is that right?
Yes,
Did you?
yes. But I did go, and he went, "I really don't know why you're being sent to me, but all I'll say is just talk a little bit more slowly."
Michael Bagley, I remember Jerry Anderson telling me he went to see Michael Bagley, and he was one of the BBC, stalwarts.
He
who-
did. He
and
had
this
that
really,
fantastic,
really,
mellifluous,
yes, melodious
Yes,
voice.
indeed.
And he told Jerry Anderson to give it up. Give it up. There'll be nothing in broadcasting, dear boy. Run
Well,
along.
that's what happened to
There's something
Lorraine.
else.
Yes, Lorraine Kelly at the BBC. The bosses, when she went there, said, "You will never get on in television, not with that Scottish accent."
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's because in those days, I mean, Lorraine's just celebrated 40 years on ITV, and 40 years of broadcasting, and in those days there weren't regional accents.
Right.
I mean, Downtown in '76, as you say, it was the
Well,
first time
that's
it was
why
the men and the people.
It burst
Absolutely.
onto, it burst onto the stage.
I mean, and
because it was people talking in their own accents.
Yeah.
Apart from John Paul, why did
who
he
I
do the-
married.
Yes, we'll come to that. But he did an American.
Well,
He did a-
somebody said he was like a cross between Atlantic City and Atlantic
John
Avenue.
Paul. John Paul on Downtown.
Yeah.
Did we take the piss out of that in a sketch? Did we?
We used to sit around and wait until he said pound coin. Hi, guy.
Yeah.
Was always there. He's going to say it. Hi, guy. Why did he do that?
I have no idea. Not a
But he
single.
just decided I'm
but
gonna be
I-
American.
But I think it's because if you listen to pirate radios, there were a lot of Americanism types, and they all were sort of brought up on pirate radio. And I mean, whenever they started, my job, I was secretary to them.
Secretary?
So, secretary to John Rossbury, who was head of programmes.
With a typewriter and all?
Oh, yes. I mean, I can still do the touch typing and the T-line shorthand. Can't read it back. But so John Rossborough was my boss and all the DJs. So you could say pretty much I married one of my bosses. But they hadn't a clue about business. They'd all worked in different places before. And in fact, Big T had worked, I believe, for HMRC.
Right.
Yes.
And he was sent out to follow these DJs who were be in the paper, the ads, tonight at the Highwomen, John Paul. So he would go and see whether he was being paid in a wee brown envelope or not, and then have to report back. But he loved the gig so much, he went, bye-bye HMRC, and he joined the radio.
Oh, wow.
He was a poacher,
But when
or
you-
gamekeeper
when
turned
you-
poacher.
And then
Like a-
did gigs and got paid in cash?
Yes.
Yeah, sorry,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's like
It was actually
Possibly, allegedly.
It was actually quite smart to come up with doing the American because it made him distinctive.
Oh, totally, completely.
made his show
Yeah,
distinctive.
I mean, I can remember, it was one of my jobs, I had to type up the running order for the next day and who the guests were on, and that had to go down to the studio. And it was take two was Bill Naylor, who is one of his best mates is Peter Dixon, who does the
Oh, right,
voiceovers
yeah,
for the X
yeah.
Factor. Bill Naylor, he was English, living here. brilliant guy, great guy, very, very funny. And Linda Macaulay, they did take 2. And then I think Hendy took over that as well, but then there was Hendy's Happy House.
Yes, Hendy's Happy House.
There
Remember
was
that?
John
Yep.
Paul's Dinner Spinner.
Yep.
Candy
Divine.
Candy Divine, can't remember, on Big T's country show,
Show.
and but he did
Great
the
Linda
afternoon.
Jane.
Yeah, Linda Jane came in, and she arrived by the same time as me, and in fact it was down to Linda Jane pretty much that I started getting a wee bit more of the broadcasting work that I had never intended to do.
Eamon Malley started.
In Mali. They did say about Eamon.
Eamon Malley.
I would have to take the phone calls from Eamon and type up the transcripts as he was phoning the reports through. And it was somebody once said to me, Eamon Malley, he's so intelligent, he can speak 5 languages. Sadly, all of them at the same time.
Was it Downtown Radio? There's a famous story about Downtown Radio. During the bad days of the Troubles, obviously, there's a group of loyalists carried out an attack, and Downtown Radio said the attack was claimed by the Red Hand Commandos, and they got a phone call, and a guy going, "This is the Red Hand Commando. Can I just correct you? We're not the Red Hand Commandos. We are the Red Hand Commando. It's Latin. Get our name right."
Trisha Wilkinson told me that story because she used to read the news.
Yes, I remember.
Oh,
Yeah. And but there was also somebody who answered the phone once when there was this is whichever loyalist organisation it was phoning in, said this is so and so claiming responsibility, code word blah blah blah, and the person answering the phone went, "Is that you, so and so?" I know. What? We're in the Northern Ireland Supporters Club together. Right, bye. But my favourite was, do you remember Patsy McCardle?
Oh,
Downtown
yes,
Radio
yes.
News.
Oh,
and
yeah.
Patsy McCardle Cross McGlen. And Patsy had gone to New York on holiday. And I had to take the phone call and record Patsy taking his report from there'd been an explosion. And quite often, Patsy would be on the phone and said, "The IRA have claimed responsibility for the bombings. Hang on." Poof, N Cross McGlen. The warning would come through beforehand, allegedly. But Patsy had gone to New York and had come back, and he said, "The device was left in the trunk. No, the device was left in the trash can on the sidewalk in Cross McGlen." Patsy, it's a bin and it's a pavement.
So how did you move from secretarial to being on air?
Well, it was in those good old bad old days. Being very busy news-wise in the late 70s, early 80s, the journalists were the newsreaders. They didn't have any proper designated journalists. Linda Macaulay did a lot of the newsreading, but I think she's brilliant.
What a voice.
Absolutely.
She just left the BBC.
I know. Linda and I have had many a lunch.
Yes. Linda Macaulay. Yep.
And so there were no newsreaders pretty much in the afternoons. So the journalists read the news, but all the journalists were out covering stories. David Sloan was the head of news at the time, and he went, that news secretary, she can speak a bit. So I was literally thrown in front of the microphone with scripts, fill your boots. And then, I mentioned Linda Jane, so that became a sort of a little bit more of a regular thing. And Linda Jane would phone me up and go, "Pammy, I need to nip to the loo. Could you come down and push the buttons just while I nip up to the loo?" I said, "Certainly." So I'd come down, push the buttons. But Linda had attention span of a gnat. She'd end up standing, talking to somebody for a while. Right. So it's been about 20 minutes and nobody said anything here. So I would just open the microphone and do a Linda Jane impersonation. That was so-and-so, the Creedence Clearwater Revival with da-da-da, boom, close the microphone. And then she would eventually come back down. So this sort of started going on. She was half an hour late one day. I did her programme for half an hour and her dad didn't know she was off. So they then thought, well, she can do a wee bit more. So they gave me a programme at the weekends, which was, do you remember Billboard magazine?
Yes.
They had charts from around the world. So it was the chart shows from around the world, and I could just pick what songs I wanted. But they always had to be the songs that were in the library,
Right, of course.
which was looked after by the wonderful Cherry McElwain. And it was called Panasonic International.
All right.
Yes, they're playing up. It was Pamasonic.
Oh, Pamasonic.
Pamasonic
Oh,
International.
Sorry, I see what you did there. Wait a minute. Take your time, Tim.
Pamasonic International. And
You're with us now.
Yeah, I've got you
I
now,
did that.
yeah.
And then they asked me would I do a programme in the mornings at 5 o'clock. And my work contract said, anything to assist the smooth running of broadcasting.
All right. Any other duties?
Yes. So 5 o'clock in the morning, I would be in by 4:30, broadcast from 5 to 7, then try and prepare the programme for the next morning. If the library was open, if not, I would just go up to the office and type up various things. Then I'd work as a secretary until 12 o'clock and then go home and repeat. But I was still paid as a secretary.
All right. Okay.
My final salary, I'll never forget, £2,200
Wow.
per
A
annum.
year? A
Yeah.
year?
Yeah. And
No
then
wonder you're still working.
Exactly. But still have my full pension, I checked. But then there was the lovely Don Anderson was driving into work one morning, and there was a guy who worked in the BBC at 9 o'clock in the morning who was leaving. An English guy called Stuart. I can't remember his full name, but he was leaving anyway. Don heard me on the radio, got in touch and said, we're going to have a position opening up on Radio Ulster. Would you come for an audition? So I went along and did the audition with Harry Adair.
Right.
And I told my boss beforehand, Ivan Tinman was then the MD at Downtown, and they'd sent me to Broadcasting College in London for 3 months because Capital Radio ran this broadcasting college and they just needed support. So we went, look, off you go, Rollston, as I was at the time. And a brilliant 3 months in London. Then Don Anderson, as I say, got in touch. I went to Ivan Tim and said, look, I've been asked to go for an audition. He went, okay, thanks for letting me know. Let me know how it goes. So was offered the job, went to Tinners and said, been offered the job. He said, right, I will say as your boss, we've invested a lot in you. We can see great potential for you. But as your friend, none of this lot are leaving. So I'd grab that opportunity with both hands if I were you.
Wow.
And off I went to the Beeb for a very short space of time.
Till they found you out?
Well, pretty much, yes. I was not exactly welcomed by my direct boss at the time with open arms. Let's
Okay.
just put it that
All
way.
right, okay.
And my life
is that
was
for
Yes.
being a woman, or is that for being
I don't know.
right?
But his opening gambit to me was, I didn't want to employ you.
Oh, right,
So
that's
you're going to
always
have
nice.
to prove
But
yourself.
your name's not Dolan. Look at that of him.
So they after about 3 months, I was called into his office, and life had not been terribly pleasant with him anyway. And they called me on my day off, and talking about restructuring, and I was going, what's he talking about? And then I tried,
Oh, right.
the 9 o'clock programme's gone.
Getting the
The
push
10
here.
o'clock is starting at 9 o'clock. So I was getting the hevo and did the only sensible thing and went to the Linden Bar and got
Had a few
fairly
beers.
merry,
Very
shall we
good.
put it that
We
way.
all enjoyed the Linen Hall bar.
We
that day.
certainly did.
That was a
Certainly
good
had a-
spot.
And do you remember it was sort of quite renowned in that area for ladies of the night, shall we
Yes.
say?
Yeah.
In those days.
And I remember coming out and there was a company directly opposite the door of the Linen Hall, and there were two ladies sitting on the doorstep under the sign for Software Ireland. And that's just perfect.
Days of innocence.
Absolutely. But that was then the first time that UTV had a job going in their continuity department in 10 years. And as Northern Ireland is a village, a girl in UTV who I knew was very friendly with a guy in Downtown, said, what's Pamela doing? And she said, well, I don't really know. So she said, look, get her to come for an audition. So she got in touch with me, and I was signed up to the UTV Continuity Announcers Department. And my very first day's broadcasting, I shadowed her. It was Joanne Woods, now Joanne Leahy, lovely, lovely lady. And I shadowed her on the 6th of March, and I flew solo on the 8th of March, 1984. So that was 40 years ago on International Women's Day this year.
Wow. 40 years.
40
It's-
years.
I mean, this is
As man and boy.
a tough business to survive in this, like broadcasting, television, comedy.
Wasn't it?
it's-
Terry Wogan was always convinced he was getting the sack.
Yeah,
Yes.
I would have
That's
come.
it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but they
Yeah.
go.
He was always convinced he was getting the sack.
I mean, we all do. We all suffer from that imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
And, what? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, every time he was called to a meeting, they're
Yeah,
gonna
that's
say,
it. That's it. Yeah.
That's it. I'm out, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In his book, did he ever write about his wigs?
No.
No, but
No, Guy read a
Because
couple of his autobiographies,
yeah.
and they're quite entertaining. But
Yeah.
paranoid, and you go. But I remember he had the biggest show in Europe. He'd got a knighthood. He was everybody was saying how wonderful he was, and all it is they're going to get rid of me. They're going to get rid. I know they are. I know they are. They got rid of Jimmy Young.
Yes, I
And
remember that,
he
'cause that's how
took
Gloria
he
got
took
her
that
job.
really, really badly, and
Yeah.
thought, oh no, they're going to get rid of me. And
Because that always got very confusing in Northern Ireland.
yes,
James Young and Jimmy
of
Young,
course,
yeah.
Yes, yeah. Would have done. Yeah, will. So UTV.
Mm-hmm.
For
Fun.
How long were you in UTV then?
40 years. Still there.
A total, yeah.
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 40 years, just over, well, 40 and a half years now. But I started, and I remember talking to friends of mine in Australia, and they were going, but here in Australia, you know, if you last in a job, you get long service leave. If you stay in a job for 10 years, you get 6 months paid leave.
Wow, really?
If you stick with a company for 10 years at the time, yeah. And if you know,
Could I've been stuck with him for? I'm owed a year off these.
are you going to give him 6 months paid leave? and they said, but well, I've been with the one company, but the jobs that I've done in between. You know, I started off as a continuity announcer, which included reading the news and the sport. And in those days, we didn't have auto cue. And the first thing that we did in the morning was 5 minutes to camera,
Wow.
which was whatever you wanted. It was to promote the programmes of the day. So we would get the trailers that were there and would come up with a wee script, and we would do 5 minutes of what's coming up today on UTV.
With no auto cue?
No auto cue. But that's where I think that the ones who sort of stuck it out, like Frank, who was in UTV for ages as well, the radio work helped, because that's not scripted.
Yeah.
You know, it's you just come up with what it is. And if it's something, I mean, I find it very difficult. You guys write your own stuff. Mm-hmm. If somebody writes stuff for me to read to camera, just as a straight off, I struggle with that. But if I've written it, I can do it. Yeah. But other people's words aren't that simple. So if it's, when I say it's 5 minutes, you'd maybe have a 20-second commercial for Emmerdale Farm, as it was at the time. There was something, you know, all those different Krypton Factor, you know, all those programs that were. So you'd have maybe only about 2 minutes of talking, or 2.5 minutes in between the clips that you showed as well. And then we went into schools programs. Yeah. And that was from 9:30 till usually sort of 12 o'clock, 12:30. And then it'd be the Sullivans, and there was that awful program that came from America where you'd have somebody saying, they'd walk through a door, then they'd stop the scene and saying, the part of so-and-so is now being played by Jason Robards. And it would be, literally one person walks through the door and another person walks out through it. I mean, it was brilliant. And there was an earthquake in it, and I remember polystyrene boulders bouncing off people's heads and things. It was...
But UTV kept the Envision continuity announcers
right
until
right till
they were
COVID.
dragged kicking and screaming out of the building, like, by the time they did away with them, because it was sort of... I suppose by the time that happened, it was regarded as old-fashioned, but it actually was something that was very affectionately held.
Absolutely.
We loved our Envision
continuity. We loved Julian doing the interview,
and doing the Coronation Street stuff, and here we to tell you what's happening. Everybody loved that.
Yeah, when I started, I think there were 4 full-time continuity announcers and 6 part-time, and I was one of the part-time team. And you did. It was a 7-day fortnight, so it was Monday, Wednesday, Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and you worked from 9 till 6, with lunch break from, I think it was 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, and then when you did the evening shift, you covered the 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock shift, and then started at 6 till close down. And in those days, we had the Queen playing, and the little white dot appeared on the TV screen. So close down. I mean, I remember during the World Cup, the overtime we made was phenomenal. The World Cup in Mexico, because we had to stay on air till the football finished at middle of the night. Yeah, 3 o'clock in the morning. It was, and quite often I'd be back in again at 9 o'clock.
I remember they played the anthem at the end of the the TV stopped. Younger listeners and viewers, the TV stopped about midnight sometime, and they played "God Save the Queen." I was going to say King.
Yeah, we're not that old.
God Save the Queen. No, we're not that old. Yeah, oh, Jimmy Bryson would love that. Bring those days back, eh?
And there were a few of the boys that the continuity announcers room was about the size of this studio, huge, and it was down in Tellicity where all the engineers were that put the programmes out, and I mean, we had the best of crack because nobody ever came down there, apart from an editor bringing you the tapes to play in the news. And there was one day I was reading the news, and one of the editors was sent to bring the tapes down, but he never appeared. So my 7-minute news bulletin was about 2.5 minutes, because I would be going, this report from Ivan Little. Terribly sorry, but we'll come back to that later. He appeared 10 minutes after the news finished. We think he'd gone via the pub.
Oh, right. Well, you did that in those days.
Yeah, he liked a wee soup, but he could have brought the tapes first. Yeah. That would have helped enormously. Yeah.
But that's nothing phases you now. Nothing. You could throw anything at you now.
Pretty
set
much.
fire to the UTV studio, and you'd still be well. Coming up on UTV Live.
The day of we had a strike, and whichever unions went out and strike, and I wasn't in the union, so I.
Oh, don't tell me you were a scab, were you?
I was a scab. I was a scab in downtown. That lasted till lunchtime because it was very cold, so we went to the Strangford Arms instead. No, I was on the picket line for that one. I wasn't a scab. I was on the picket line. It was very cold, but we were scabs, but management were pushing the buttons, and it was hilarious. The MD was pushing the buttons to get things on air, and my lord, did we earn our corn, because there was a little preview monitor down here, so you could see that the clock would be going, 10, 9, 8, and then you'd stop talking when it hit. Boom. The clock was never moving, and you go. And 3 minutes of filling here. This is going down, and you had the TV Times in your lap, and you'd be going, well, great stuff to come up with tonight. Just somebody push a button, go in and beat him over the head or something. It was an absolute hoot.
But we've met in a few strange places.
We certainly have.
But did we once meet at a stock car event?
Yes.
Did you do stock car?
I did. In fact, somebody gave me a copy of the programme of the stock car racing.
I met him in it.
Yeah.
What was that about?
I won.
You won?
3 years in a row. Gary Gillespie was livid.
Excellent. No, somebody I went to school with, he gave me a challenge once. He says, I'm a stock car driver, will you come and be my navigator? So I went along to that date and we did the whole.
Yeah.
You're a navigator? You don't know where to get the
no. Well, that's why we didn't win. That's why Bobby won. We didn't win. But anyway, I went, and anyway, we're doing it. And but then I was just sitting in my gear, but he was dressed in, he had this a whole suit underneath his, his...
The fire retardant, the crash helmet, the safety gear.
Whole big thing. And it was like, it was all covered, his whole... And I said to him, what are you wearing that for? He says, well, it's just, if there's an accident and it tumbles over and it bursts into flames, I'll be all right,
Great.
Super. Okay. Where do you want to go now?
But
did you, you were a driver or a navigator?
No, I'm a bluffer.
Right.
I've sat in Lurgan Park as a co-driver. But in Lurgan Park, when you see the proper rally drivers and co-drivers doing it, it's 90 left over crest and da-da-da-da-da-da. I can't do that.
Yeah.
So I just go, we'll go left here. or remind them, you've got to do it. The main bit is making sure they arrive at the start of the stage on time. Yeah. They leave it in a certain time. You get to a controlled time. So, and back timing was also a very good thing, because that's something you learn to do in your sums in telly. You back time, so you don't count to 100, you count to 60. And back time, because everything has to be done to the hour, minute, and second. So you subtract in 60s, and it's great fun. So that's what you have to do. You have to get your time cards in on time, and that's it. So I was co-driving. But I've done a wee bit of driving just for the crack and charity events, and it's good fun.
Well, it's good fun. I mean, it's better than going to a fairground or
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this weekend just
Disney
passed.
One of the big parks or anything like that.
I was sitting beside a brilliant rally driver called Eamon Kelly up in Donegal this weekend in an open buggy on a loose gravel track, going at I don't know what speed, sideways over bumps and jumps and whatever, and the mud was just splattered. But there was mud on my shoes. We were wearing overalls, and there was mud on my shoes. And I said, by the way, that's not mud. But it was brilliant. It was brilliant crack.
But you've done
really
loads and loads. You've done a bit of acting as well. Did you do a bit of acting with our very good colleague, Ms. Olivia Nash?
Livy she is such a star. She's just the
And what did you do with Olivia? Remind us.
Did the vagina monologues, and she was so good. The stories that she would tell. Going back to she was on stage with the aforementioned Jimmy Young. But she's done so much. I don't mean it to sound derogatory, but when I say proper acting, like Shakespeare and stuff.
Yeah.
And,
Well, we
she's
had
just-
Mary Jones in earlier, and she said she was too scunnered to do the vagina monologues.
He said the first word was a bad word.
Well, yes, but we took it. It was a guy, Seamus down in Duncloney, outside Dungannon, the fabulous theatre that's down there, and he got
the Bardic, is it?
Is it the Bardic? Forgive me,
All right.
I'll get better.
Donaghmore.
Yes, Donaghmore. Fabulous place down there. And he got you have to get permission to do the show.
Right.
And you can only get the rights for 6 months. Now, unfortunately, he got the rights in, I think it was October, November time. And then, of course, Christmas comes along. So all the venues around Northern Ireland are booked up. So we were only able to do it for maybe 4 weeks. And then we had a big break until January and then back out again for another 3 months run. And you're really not meant to change anything in it.
Right.
Because these are rehearsed readings, and they're amazing stories from women from all over the world, and different things that they've suffered. Some of them are, some of them are really heartbreaking. Some of them are hugely entertaining. But there's one scene where I saw it in the Grand Opera House with 3 English ladies doing. I think trying to remember. I can't even remember who they were because it was that long ago, and I've got menopause number 5 brain. But there's a word that is used as an exceptionally derogatory term, and it begins with a C and it's 4 letters long. So they get the audience to reclaim it.
Right.
Because why should it be a derogatory term?
Right.
When it's sort of, I think it's in Shakespeare as, a word, as a anatomical description. Mm-hmm. So the audience are there just shouting this 4-letter word out in the Grand Opera House. And I looked round and there were like 2 rows of people looking at me going, there's your woman on the TV shouting. So I thought, and I spoke to James, I said, look, we're from Northern Ireland, and people from Northern Ireland don't take things as well from other people in Northern Ireland, and I don't think it will go down well if the lovely Olivia Nash, and it was Carol Dewey was doing the start of it as well from Cookstown, and myself, and then Linda Browns was taking over. She wasn't free for the first run. I don't think the Northern Ireland audience will take it from us.
Right.
And I would like to make the decision not to use that scene. And Livy and Carol totally agreed as well. We had a discussion among the 3 of us before we went to, and he was also saying, because he had never seen the production, which I had, and he didn't realise it was rehearsed readings, and he was trying to get us to learn the lines. I said, no, the whole story is this isn't us. This is where the stories are coming from, not from us. So it has to be rehearsed readings, not a performance. So thankfully he agreed, but we left that really that word out.
Yeah. Okay.
But it was tough. But it was.
Well, I'm
but
glad my
God,
ma
it
was
was funny.
saved from that.
my poor wee sister saw it, and she said, "I have to say, there's nothing more embarrassing than watching your sister on the stage of the Waterfront Hall faking an orgasm."
Well, we won't ask you to do that on this occasion.
Paddy Keelty said he went to see his wife doing the vagina monologues, and he went, "I recognise that sound."
Well, at least he recognised it.
Exactly. But I did the panto for 1 year with Cannon and Ball and May McFettridge, and it was. I was the fairy godmother, and the first 3 pages of the script, which I'd taken on holiday with me to read through, I was going, fairy godmother. Having never learned a line in my life. I mean, I never did school plays. I was head of lighting and sound at school because I didn't want to be on stage, and I could go up a ladder anyway. And so I'd never learnt lines before, and then to go on stage to do that. But those
I'm
3
sure
minded
John
me.
was very gentle with you, was he, John?
He genuinely was.
Was he?
He was.
He takes the piss out of everybody.
He does. But he also and I, we've worked in the principle we're not going to hurt each other.
Yeah, no, John's great.
He's great. And we were on at 1:30 every day to about 4:30, 5 o'clock. Then back on at 7:30 till 10:30. The evening show was always longer because the daytime one with schools was a wee bit watered down. So he and I would go out for tea or would get tea in. We'd usually have a couple of beers with Cannon and Ball at half time in the evening show, and maybe we'd go out that night. And I suffered from extreme jet lag afterwards. because I didn't go home till most times till 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and then you're not getting up until 11. So, you know what it's like yourselves when you're out on the road.
Yeah.
And John would look at me and he would go, walk past, and I'm standing there holding my wand like a security blanket at 1:30 and he's going, hey up.
A bunch of screaming kids out there. Hangover.
Yeah, ferry's full. Or else, you know, it was hey up, ferry's okay. Thanks, John. Yeah.
I had the pleasure of being on your show the other week, plugging my one-man show, Ridiculous. Tickets are available. We're still on tour with Ridiculous. It was great to be on your show. How long has that been running? And have you met every single star ever who passes through Northern Ireland? Have you interviewed every bloody person?
Well, it's been going now. I think it must be going, this incarnation of it must be 8 or 10, it must be 10 years.
Yeah.
And it came about, literally, it was meant to be 6 weeks. Because UTV and all local TV has to produce a certain amount of televised hours, local hours. And UTV were falling a bit short. So they asked me, I was just filling in, doing all sorts of different things, was back freelancing again. And they said, look, we've got this idea of doing what you used to do at 5:30 every night during the week with Frank, you and somebody else hosting the show on a Friday night or whatever it was, just for half an hour. So I said, right, that'll do fine, no problem. And we auditioned a couple of people, and then they said, actually, I think it's going to work better if it's just you, because you know it may seem like half an hour, but that's really only for you know, if you want to get a good guest on and have a good natter with them. At 5:30, it was more magaziney, and the interviews would only be 3 minutes.
You don't need anybody else. You don't need anybody else.
Every now and then, you know, we like a wee crutch every now and then.
I don't need him. I could do this by myself. He's just holding us back, you know, to be honest with you.
Can I just ask, where is Marty?
Michael is in Turkey.
Are you sure?
He's in Istanbul.
Has anybody seen a patio being built round here?
To be fair, I mean, Michael is great and all of that. But we don't need him. He's got the message. You know,
a friend of mine's just back from Turkey and he's got a new head of hair.
Is that right?
Yes.
Well, Michael doesn't need it. That's one thing Michael doesn't need.
Michael's very lucky. You know,
yes.
Unlike these us two.
He's follically, what is it, follically astute or something?
Follically challenged.
He's
follically
astute or something, yes.
So apart from Tim McGarry, who's the best guest you've ever had on the show, do you think?
It's really hard to say. The people that I love talking to, and it's not... There's one lady I always mention who I met actually in her home down in Armagh years and years ago. She was called Vera McGee, and she was the most fascinating person. She was, I would say, about 82, 83. And when she was 16, well, going back just very briefly, as a child, I think her mother had died, then her father died when she was 12, and she was in a convent, put into a convent to be looked after by the nuns. And it wasn't a particularly pleasant upbringing. And
no.
Exactly. She, at one stage, had wet the bed after her father had died, and she was put to sleep in a cell with a dying nun and things like that. But this is all a story that I read, that a lovely lady in Armagh used to phone me up and say, I've met this fabulous person, I think she'd be good in your programme, a lovely lady called Pamela Ray. And Vera spoke Irish as well as English. So the nuns reckon she had a penchant for languages. So in 1938, I think it was, she was sent to France to be a governess. The only transport she'd ever been on before was a milk cart. And she was sent off with a gold sovereign on the train to France. And she was meant to be met by the family at such and such a station. They weren't there. There was a gentleman who said, look, my family are meeting me at the next station. We'll take... So sure enough, his wife, kids, she went to spend the night with them. They found the family. She went to them the next day. The family opened her mail for a year to make sure that she wasn't being interfered with by this chap. War broke out. She was in occupied France.
Oh, wow.
So because she had an Irish passport, she had to report to the Gestapo every week. And then Patton's army came in and liberated where she was. And she was asked to be a translator for their interrogation of the railway staff who saw the death wagons going through. And her stories were just remarkable. And then she went to Strasbourg to work in the British Council, and she stayed away for years. And she came back in her early 80s and couldn't understand why nobody would give her a mortgage. She was wonderful. She got the freedom of our... she got the Medal of Honour from the Clintons when they came over for the work that she did with Patton. And when she was translating in France, there are photographs of Patton's army on the Mall in Armagh at the same time.
Wow.
So she was amazing woman. Those are the sort of people I love chatting to. Another lady who'd survived the Belfast Blitz. And
who you're not going to meet otherwise.
Yeah, exactly. Those. I mean, yes, I am so lucky to get to meet the stars like yourselves.
No, but tell us then who's a complete shit, and you go, I never want to see that person ever again. You can tell.
Do you know what? I've been very lucky. There are occasions.
Oh, come on, spill the beans. You need names.
I have. Well, no, I'm not going to.
Who's been difficult?
I'm not going to tell you.
It's Tim McGarry, wasn't it?
No. Let's. Do you want to play charades? But he might be. He's got very cross and he's not come back again.
All right. Okay.
Well, no, I'll tell you later.
All right.
I'll tell you later. But no, there's some. I've had the pleasure of meeting most of the members of the royal family.
Right.
And funnily enough, even before anything came out, I said, "Do not like Prince Andrew."
He's a wrong one.
You know when you meet somebody shakes your hand like that?
Oh, right,
Yeah. Yeah. And then I was lucky enough to meet somebody who worked with him and said he was a complete nutter SH1T.
Right.
Well, you obviously weren't his type.
Well, I think I was too old.
Now you've said it. I wasn't going to say that. She said it. She said it.
I'm not blonde enough. Yeah.
So who gave you your MBE?
The lovely Princess Royal, Princess Anne. And
a lot of people say she's really nice.
She's amazing. I mean, I had the privilege of meeting her before at Hillsborough Castle. I've been involved in a charity that's involved with the Duke of Edinburgh Award Scheme for years. So I get invited along to do presentations because the way they work, you get a member of the royal family in, but they'll be there all day handing out certificates. So the member of the royal family comes in, addresses the groups, and then you get a local celeb type person to make the presentations, and that's the way it works. So she'd come over before, and I was doing the handing out of the certificates and shaky hands, and I always feel really guilty. Like I was invited to the one in Buckingham Palace, and my sister came along with me. I'm in a queue with Lenny Henry, Barry Norman, Ronnie, two Ronnies, not Ronnie Barker, the other one, Ronnie Corbett, and Gloria Honeyford. And I go, I'm the only person there I've never heard of. And we were asked, do you want to go out and mingle, or are you happy? And Susie and I both went, no, we'll stay here, star spotting, thanks, that's lovely. And then you go out to the garden, and I'm going, these poor people are getting their certificate from me. You know, there's all these really famous people, and they can see me in Tesco and Knocknagoning. Other supermarkets are available that I go to as well. But it's so funny just doing that. But when I got my MBE, I did say to the policeman on the gate, who's doing the honours today? And he went, oh, it's the Princess Royal. And I went, oh. And I said, well, I heard William was back out working as of yesterday, and I was hoping it might have been him, or it's obviously not going to be the king because he was still having his treatment. I said, it's just I've been doing Royal Bingo and I haven't got William on my card. He went, I cannot wait. I went, okay, I'm going now. Yeah. But she was amazing. She spoke to me about, there were 200 people being invested that day, and you stand in a queue and you can see what's happening. And she spoke. Not one person came near her and did a in the ear.
Really?
She just stood there, and she had a good 2+ minute chat with everybody. And she spoke to me about my broadcasting, the charity work. Did I get involved in charity work before I was involved in broadcasting? And no notes. And I was trying to see, did she have an earpiece?
Yeah.
And she didn't. But I spoke to, I'm lucky enough to be very friendly with Lady Mary P.
Yeah. And
I said, she's amazing. And Lady Mary's very friendly with her. And she said, she's got a photographic memory.
Wow.
And she doesn't take any prisoners.
Yeah.
Well, it's just funny, but there's a few people who have either got honours and she's been the one who's been handing it out, or have met her or something. That seems quite consistent. They all say she's really nice.
She's incredible. I didn't quite meet her once in Punchestown, but she was over for some horse trials things, and I'd gone into the loo, and her security people had checked they hadn't checked the loos properly, but they'd stopped people coming in. And I said, well, I heard William was back out working as of yesterday. And she spoke to me about, there was all these really famous people, and they can see me in Tesco or Knocknagoning. Other supermarkets are available that I go to as well. But it's so funny just doing that. But when I got my MBE, I did say to the policeman on the gate, who's doing the honours today? And he went, oh. And I said, well, I heard William was back out working as of yesterday. And she spoke to me about, there was 200 people being invested that day, and but they didn't check who was in.
Right.
There was just me, and then in comes Her Royal Highness, and
All right,
how
love.
you doing? Yeah,
How you doing, Anne?
yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I know what you mean about that. Being in with all these famous people, like, and you don't feel as famous.
No.
Like, I remember we were nominated for the Oscars. We
Yes.
didn't win. Unlike the great James Martin and all that, who I'm not resentful of in the slightest, or Paddy Jenkins, really. But we got to go to the red carpet.
Can I just
got
say,
the food.
the Paddy Jenkins one must really hurt, doesn't it? Yeah, I thought
No,
so.
do you not know the story that Paddy should be at the Oscars?
Yes.
He's doing a gig with us in Down Arts Centre
Yeah.
at the time.
He had to do it.
But anyway,
Yes.
Anyway, yes. So we
just
lost.
to be clear, it was him, not me, and not us, because he produced a wee show called The Crush, which
Yes.
is a brilliant wee piece. With
Nice, great wee
Yeah.
film. You can get it. It's
Okay.
very available and very popular, I think, as well. But
Oh, it's wonderful. Sorry, I was a bit slow there.
it's great. It's a great wee show. Actually, it's good. Jim Cray's brother, Michael Cray.
Oh, yes.
Wrote and directed it, and you've interviewed Michael with other stuff he's
Yes.
been doing, stuff, so you know who I'm talking
Yeah.
about, But yeah, we got nominated, of course, got the full red carpet, the whole heap. It was great. Right, we had the full experience.
Total pinch me moment.
Yes, but we didn't win.
Right.
So that was that. So the winners go to the Vanity Fair party, and the
ones who don't?
Yes, the losers go to the Governor's Ball.
Mm-hmm.
And funny enough, Tina Campbell was over covering it for UTV. At
With
that
Cinemagic,
time.
yep,
Yes.
yep.
No, it was Cinemagic.
Yep.
Maybe. No, that was
No, yeah, no, but it was for UTV,
Yes,
yep.
yes, but you had a
Yep.
UTV team with her.
Yep.
Yeah. So we get to go to the Governor's Ball. But when you get to the Governor's Ball, it's a big swanky do.
Oh, yeah.
And you're there, and there's Lloyd Bridges, and there's all these so-called losers, Helena Bonham Carter, and all these. So you don't really feel like a
Yeah,
a
and there's going to
loser.
be more of them than
Yeah.
there are in that other one.
Yeah. So that's grand. So this big swanky 8-course dinner, and these poor rich Californians have paid a fortune to be at this table at the Governor's Ball, because they're going to get sitting beside a film star, and they're going to get to meet somebody, So they're sitting thinking, who's it going to be? Am I going to get Clint Eastwood? Am I going to get these poor bastards got us? And I've never seen the disappointment on their faces when we sat down and went, yes, we're your celebrities, we're here, yes, we're nominees, didn't win, but sure, hell, And you just saw them they just couldn't believe it, It was just, I've never seen, and they must have paid thousands for a plate,
Yeah.
to be at that.
Did you have a few libations that evening? Or
Indeed,
yes.
yes.
Do I remember a conversation with a certain radio presenter at 6?
Well, yeah, it's a time difference.
Obviously, he didn't have enough
No,
libations, if he's remembering.
No. I woke up one morning to a certain radio show that run by a gentleman who's Mr. Nolan, who interviewed you live
Yes.
from LA, and he was clearly still well oiled. He was very well refreshed.
Let's just say I enjoyed myself.
A tad overserved.
Yes.
Yes.
He was
Yeah.
It was
very
like,
well refreshed.
the Linen Hall in California, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I mean,
So-
I would have been myself. I'm no blamer in that. but,
Well, I wish I'd known that you were up and about that morning, because I was on the radio filling in for Frank on U105, and I was to interview Tina, but she'd gone to bed. She was too tired.
Oh,
Aye. Well, she was out with us.
Yeah, exactly.
She was a sensible
Killed
thing.
her.
Yeah. she went, I'm not going on half cut. Like,
I could have interviewed you.
Pamela, we have to ask you how you are. And so I remember when I did the wee TV thing for my Ridiculous, which is still on tour. No, we were talking about I turned 60 and I had you don't get a present from the government, you don't get money, you don't get anything. You get a thing through the post saying, congratulations, would you like to do a bowel cancer test? And you basically did shit on a stick.
Yep,
Yes.
shit on a stick.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you're an ambassador for...
Yeah, I'm patron of Bowel Cancer UK in Northern Ireland,
Right.
and which is fantastic. I mean, I've had 4 friends who've died of bowel cancer, and I'm a member of the family, and it's fantastic, just the research that they can do, and the pleasure of meeting Dame Deborah James, sadly no longer with us, and she was just incredible. But we were talking about how we deal with everything with humour.
Yeah.
And I've always told this story, and I told this story at one of the events that I host every Christmas. That the Bowel Cancer UK used to have an event in Stormont Parliament Buildings, on the steps in the lovely hall area. The Methody Choir, who are just amazing, fabulous sopranos, whatever. And people don't know quite. It's like going to a gig in a church or in St Anne's Cathedral. You know, you feel like I'm in the presence here, and I should be quite, ooh. And I said, it's
restrained.
Yes, restrained. And I said, it's lovely to be able to stand up in Stormont and be able to willingly talk shit, which is what we're all here to do. Because,
certainly are today.
Look, we all do it.
Yeah.
Yep.
We don't want to die of embarrassment. Let's just put it out there. And I had to have bowel surgery a while back, and I had 8 inches of my intestine and my colon removed about 15, 16 years ago. And the surgeon at the time, he was a professor. He was doing research, and he's very, very. And, you'd spot him if he was in a room full of 100 people, you go, that's the professor. And he said, I've just to let you know, we're doing this with keyhole laparoscopically. And it's sort of quite new. So there's a chance that there may be a leak once we put because I was just thinking, hose pipe, when it goes wrong, bang, bang, take the bad bit out, gaffer tape, and that'll last you for a wee while. So I thought, this will be fine. And he said, no. And if you get an infection, if it leaks, you'll have to have a bag. And they were called colostomy bags at the time. And I went, no, that won't happen. And he's, this might. I said, no, it's not going to happen. I am not getting a bag. And he said, I said, listen, I am never going to get shoes to match the bag. It's not happening. Well, the tumbleweed blew through his office. And it was like, but I told this story on TV, and as it's our way of dealing with scenarios. And somebody wrote in and complained that I was being derogatory towards people who have to have this. And I totally get, now maybe the person hadn't heard my full story or whatever, but I told that story in Stormont, and the people who've had the bowel cancer and colostomies and whatever. And there was one lady in particular who had suffered very, very badly. She said, I totally nearly shit myself there when you told that story. Brilliant. So
yeah, gotta have a sense of your own ridiculousness, don't you?
You do have to have a sense of your own. Is there a show about called Ridiculous?
Funny enough, yeah, there is actually. I'm on tour at the minute.
Wow.
Pammy, we have done a lot more than I. We could talk to you all afternoon, but sadly,
we're not allowed.
Well, we kind of. Listen, thank you very, very, very much. You're fitting well, by the way.
I am fit. I am fit.
But just on a slightly serious point, I know people talk about.
Yes.
Some people deal with it in various different ways. You went public on it and all of that.
Yeah.
You were comfortable doing that?
I wasn't comfortable in people knowing straight off. I didn't do anything. In fact, very few people I worked with were sort of that weren't sure. Nobody really asked. I told people who needed to know, because if I got an infection when I was diagnosed with breast cancer, and was having chemotherapy, if I got an infection, it could be very, very serious. I was in hospital for 5 days getting antibiotics at one stage, and my wig was so good, and I have to thank Therese at Tresses for my wig, the National Health one. Yep. They've changed now, but they sent me a red wig.
Right.
Yeah. And so people didn't know. In fact, first day I met my boss when I was wearing the wig, and he said, look, I haven't been in touch and I didn't know what to do and what to say, and how are you getting on with symptoms? And I went, well, this is a wig. And he went, off. What? And I went, yeah. So I didn't want people
one of those.
You can have Helen. She's in the roof space. But I didn't want people to know until I knew what I was dealing with. And once I'd come out the other side, the treatment was brilliant. The National Health Service were amazing. The surgeon was fantastic. Prof. Kirk, he got my sense of humour. And, my sister was brilliant. She was with me at the oncologist chats, and she kept telling me as I was joking away, and she would tell me to read the room. And, when they tell you you're not going to lose weight, and I went, what? There are no benefits to this? So everybody was fantastic. So I'd had chemotherapy, surgery in July, just where the tumours had been. The tumours had pretty much gone. You could see on the MRI scan. It turned out I had 3 tumours in my lymph nodes, one behind my right boob. By the way, it's Phil and Grant. Phil let me down. Then I had radiotherapy, and then I had injections because I've got the HER2 cell, which we need to campaign for the injection that the medication here that is, it's not available. It's only available in Scotland, but the NICE will not pass it for England, Wales, and Northern Ireland because it's too expensive. Anyway, that's another matter entirely. So I had that up until April, and then you're sent on your merry way. And I've been using the Macmillan Cancer Support Service. I've been using Action Cancer for complementary therapies. And if you need help, we're all crap at asking for support.
Yeah.
But it's there. And I had my mammogram, first one in August, and they said to me, look, it will probably come back. You'll have to get another one. But I didn't. It came back normal. So all good. Touch wood. Fingers
Is
crossed.
feck all wrong with you now?
Feck all wrong with me.
Stop lying under it then.
I know.
Banging on about it. Jesus, Pamela, give us a break.
Do you know, my mates are now at did you know she had cancer? I didn't know she had cancer. Oh, no.
Shall she let it slip again? Well, that's a very good place to be, Pamela.
And the other one, she got an MBA. Oh, did you know she got that? Yeah.
Pamela, absolute pleasure. Thank you very much
gentlemen,
for being
for being
listen,
so
don't
delightful.
Forget to go to the Drip and get your
Drip.
free
I will be going to the
20%
Drip.
off.
I can't wait for that French toast with peanut butter.
Yeah, absolutely. Pamela, thank you very much.
Thank you, gents.
That's all from this episode of the Give My Head podcast. We're back next week. We don't know who we have next. We have all sorts of exciting people coming up. As I say, Olivia Nash of Ma's going to be on eventually. Subscribe below if you like it, and go to the YouTube and all of that. Give My Head Piece on tour next year. Buy your tickets now. And Tim and Gary Ridiculous, still tickets available. Thank you very much. See you soon.